Hello, Year 2. How are you? And welcome to today's science lesson. So in science today, we're going to be looking at some different material inventions and discoveries that have been made. Now, if you know what the word inventions means, that's fantastic. But if you don't worry, because we're going to be looking at what it means together in a little while. Now, by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to tell me who these three men are at the bottom of our screen and the products that they've invented. Okay, and you'll also be able to discuss how suitable these are for their purpose. So how suitable these inventions are for what they're used for. Okay, so what materials have they used? Why are these suitable? So you'll be able to discuss that. Now, today is our last lesson on everyday materials. So I have created a quiz that lets us look back on how much we've learned in this topic and how much we can remember. Okay, so would you like to see the quiz? So here's our quiz, and you'll find this on the worksheet, Year 2 Science, 19th of January, Resource 1. Okay, now there are 8 questions, and you've probably noticed that there are 3 different types of questions. There are 4-mark questions, 3-mark questions, and 2-mark questions. I wonder why that is. Well, the 4-mark questions are things that we learned right at the start of our topic. So in weeks 1 and 2 of last half term. So those will be much harder to remember because we learned about them further back. Okay, so that's why they're worth 4 marks. Then we've got the 3-mark questions. Now that we learned about those in weeks 3 and 4. So again, they might be slightly harder to remember and therefore they are worth 3 marks. And then the questions that are worth 2 marks, we've learned about in the last 2 weeks. So they will be easier to remember and that's why they're worth less marks. Okay, so the first question, name 4 properties of glass. So 4 marks, 1 mark for each property. Then the second, what is a material and where do they come from? So they're your first 2 marks, 1 mark for each correct question. And then name 2 natural materials. So there you go, there are your other 2 marks if you name 2 natural materials. Now the next one, name 3 different ways you can change the shape of a material. So there you go, 3 different ways, 1 mark for each. What would happen if you stretched an elastic band? Why is fabric a suitable material for curtains? So it's 3 marks, so try and give me 3 reasons if you can. Why is glass a suitable material for a window? Again, 3 marks, try and give me 3 reasons. What materials are made from wood? So 2 marks, give me 2 materials that are made from wood. And then name 2 materials that a spoon can be made of and explain their purpose. So because you're naming 2 materials, it is 1 mark for each. Okay, so pause the video now and have a go at this retrieval quiz. Okay, Year 2, should we see how much you've remembered from this topic? Well, number 1, name 4 properties of glass. Now you can mark this yourself and then when you send it into the office, I'll double check it, okay? So I'll have a look at your answers again because for some questions you might have put a different answer, which is also correct, but I just haven't thought of it, okay? So name 4 properties of glass. Well, here are the properties of glass. There is rigid, so you can't bend it. It's hard, it's transparent, so you can see through it. It's waterproof, it's shiny, and it's smooth. Okay, so give yourself a mark for each one that you got correct. Now, what is a natural material and where do they come from? So let's start with those 2 marks. Well, a natural material is found in nature. It can be from a plant, from the ground, or from an animal. Okay, so those are your first 2 marks if you've got that correct. Then we have to name 2 natural materials. So here you go, here's some natural materials. We've got wool, wood, cotton, chalk, metal, stone and sand. Okay, so if you've got 2 of those, tick them. But if you've thought of some more, that's excellent as well. And I will have a look at them when you send them to the office. Now, name 3 different ways you can change the shape of a material. So you can stretch it, bend it, squash it or twist it. So you needed 3 of those to get 3 marks. What would happen if you stretched an elastic band? Well, the elastic band would stretch, but when you let go, it would go back to its original shape. So if you've got that right, you can have the 3 marks. Why is fabric a suitable material for curtains? Well, remember, 3 marks, 3 reasons. It is flexible, it is opaque, so you can't see through it or light won't come through it. And it is absorbent, so it's easy to wash. So if you've got each of those, well done. But if you thought of some others, when you send it into the office, I'll have another look. Then we've got why is glass a suitable material for a window? So again, I've thought of 3 reasons, but you might thought of some other ones. So that it is transparent, so you can see through it. It is waterproof, so the rain doesn't come in. It is rigid, so when it's windy, it doesn't bend. And what materials are made from wood? Well, there are only two materials that are made from wood, which are paper and cardboard. So there's your 2 marks. Then we have name 2 materials that a spoon could be made from and explain their purpose. So I've thought of 3, but you need 2 of these. So I've got plastic, which is used by children or on a picnic. I've got wood, which is used when you're cooking because it won't melt or get too hot. And then you've got metal, which you eat with. So if you'd like to pause the video now and have a look at the answers and mark your quiz, but remember, I will look at it as well when you send it into the office. Okay, year 2, so let's move on to our learning for today. So here we've got the word inventions. Remember, our question is, what material inventions and discoveries have been made? Now, inventions is a noun, okay? And it means something that someone has created that has not existed before. So before they created it, it didn't exist. It wasn't a product before they thought of the idea and they created it themselves. Now here's some synonyms as well. Remember, a synonym is a word, a different word, which means the same thing. So you've got creation, so they created something. They designed it, so design. Discovery, so if you discover something, you find something new. And innovation, okay. Now here we have got 3 inventors. We've got John Dunlop, we've got Charles Mackintosh, and John Mcadam. Do you recognise any of their names already and know what they invented? Well done if you did, but don't worry if you don't, because we will find out in a minute. So these men all looked at materials and they made things, they invented things that are still used today. Now, can you guess what they invented? Pause the video now and have a little think. Okay, year 2, shall we find out if you were correct? So the first person is John Dunlop. Now, John Dunlop was born in 1840 and he was training to become a vet. But then he had a brilliant idea. I wonder what his brilliant idea was. Well, he developed the first inflatable tyre. Now, an inflatable tyre is a tyre where you have to pump air into it and it inflates, it gets bigger. So you'll find those on bikes and on cars. Now, he realised if you fill the tyre with air, it will travel further than a metal tyre. So before he invented these inflatable tyres, people used to use metal tyres. Now, because he invented the first inflatable tyre, he had a company called Dunlop Pneumatic Tyre Company, okay, which is still around today, and people still use these tyres today. I'm sure you've seen them on bikes and on cars. Now, did you guess that that's what John Dunlop had invented? Well done if you did. Now, let's move on to our next inventor. So here we've got Charles Mackintosh. Now, you might recognise his last name. Well, he was born in 1766 and he is Scottish. And he was working as a clerk, which is someone who does paperwork, okay? But he didn't enjoy his job, but he really, really loved science. And he used to do different experiments. And in one of his experiments, he found that rubber could become a liquid, okay? So a liquid is like water, you know, water, and when you have a cup of tea or a hot chocolate, those are liquids. So he discovered that you could melt rubber and it could become a liquid. And he found that this liquid was waterproof, okay? And it could be used to make waterproof fabric for clothes. So what he did was he got the liquid rubber and he painted it onto a piece of wool. And then he put another piece of wool on top. So it's a bit like a sandwich. So there was the wool was where your pieces of bread, and then the rubber, the liquid rubber, was your filling in the sandwich. And he discovered that he had invented waterproof fabric. And he used this fabric to make waterproof coats, which were called Mackintosh coats. Have any of you got a Mackintosh coat? Okay, that's probably, if you recognised his last name, that's where you knew it from, because you might have a Mackintosh coat. And they are waterproof coats. Okay, so those are still used today. Now let's look at our last inventor, who is John Mcadam. Now, John Mcadam was Scottish again, and he was not very happy with roads, okay? They were made from earth, chalk and clay, so they're quite hard to travel on. And some of the roads were cobbled. Remember when we learned about cobbled roads in the Great Fire of London? So the roads had stones on them, okay? So the journeys would be very bumpy. So yes, he wasn't very happy with the roads. So he invented a new way of building roads, which was called macadamization. Okay, that's a very long word, isn't it? Should we say it again? Macadamization. Okay, now his way of building roads. Can you see the picture in the corner? Well, he put large stones at the bottom. Okay, so he covered the ground with large stones. Then on top, he put some smaller stones. Can you see in the picture the smaller stones on top? Then on top of that, he put gravel. Now, that was good. Gravel was suitable because it made the road hard and less bumpy. Okay, so it's less bumpy than the roads were before. Now, his roads were also curved. Can you see that there's a ditch either side of the road? Well, that was so that the water could run off so they didn't get flooded, which they did before. Now, in 1816, he started to build his new type of road in Bristol, which is England. Have you heard about the city Bristol? It's not too far from Birmingham. Then in 1830, roads were built in North America. So these roads were becoming so popular that people were starting to build them in North America, which is fantastic. Okay, so these are the roads that we still use today.